Welcome to Networking RX, a podcast devoted to helping business professionals like you enhance your networking skills in order to become more proficient giving and receiving quality business referrals and improving the overall quality of your life and the lives of those around you. The Networking RX podcast is a production of AmSpirit Business Connections, an organization whose mission is to empower business success through networking.
I don't know how old you are, but if you're old like me, not old, but older like me, I don't want to call myself old. There was a cartoon out there, was a Looney Tunes cartoon, Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck. And it was not a mainstay there, but every once in a while, it was Ralph Wolf, W-O-L-F, and Sam Sheepdog. And sure enough, the characters were a wolf. Ralph was a wolf and Sam was a sheepdog. And they were little 2-minute clips. You can look them up on YouTube. They're really cute. But they lived together. They went to work together, and they each had a job. Ralph Wolf's job was to get a sheep. And Sam Sheepdog's job was to prevent the sheeps from being taken. And it was very comical because the sheepdog always won. The good guys always win. But what was interesting was, they lived together and they were fighting all day, these little warring factions. But at lunchtime, they would come together, they would punch out, and they would sit and have lunch. They were bitter enemies all during when they were punched in, but the rest of the time they were having lunch. And that really reminds me of, it got me thinking about that when I was thinking about our guest today, who's back here again. She was episode 486, which came out June 16th of 2022. Dia Irby, and how I originally connected with her was through a post that I had made and she had commented on, talking about having a meal. And she gave me a link in the post, or shared a link with everybody in the post, about a TEDx talk she did called Magic in the Meal. And it was a 18 minute post, or a TEDx talk, I believe, just talking about how coming together over a meal, the power of it, the magic of it, if you will, as she said. And Dia can kind of give us some background on her family, but married, been in 5 different states over 4.5 years or something crazy like that. But she's got a wonderful family and grandkids. And I would imagine the holidays and Thanksgiving are just are what I'll call wonderful mayhem. And it's so anyhow, Dia, thank you for coming back. As I told you before we hit record, my original intent in reaching out to you and getting you on the podcast was to talk about that TEDx talk, but we got talking about your acronym. I think it was IMAGE, right? Was it IMAGE? Oh, you're going to show me claim. That was it. Thank you. Anyhow, welcome back.
Thank you, Frank, for having me back and for reminding me of the magic of the meal. What is interesting is I gave that TEDx talk in 2019. What's happened since then?
Oh my gosh, what hasn't happened?
A pandemic.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, everybody was stuck at home.
Yeah.
So I did some research about the effect of the pandemic on the family dinner. And people rediscovered the magic.
That's true.
They were stuck at home. They had to be together. They had to eat. So they came together at the table. And of the people that were surveyed in a survey that was done with the Family Dinner Project and Making Care, some connection, I can't remember the second group, but they did a survey and asked people, how did the pandemic affect? Now, some of the people said it didn't affect us because our lives didn't change. We still had our same schedule, yet we still had our family meals. They were as important now as they were before. But there were some people that rediscovered it. They said that children were helping more in the preparation of the meals. They, on average, mealtime lasted 15 minutes longer. It went from a 70-minute time frame to an 85-minute time frame. And that just That is magic.
Yeah. Well,
It is.
I mean, I'm glad you shared that, because for us, my family, my wife and my 3 kids, we were all at home. My son was in Miami, Florida. Just decided, you know what? He was living in a high-rise condo, stuck in a little 200 square foot apartment with a lot of old people. He felt terrible. You know, he's on 15 floors up, you know, taking the elevator, and everybody's leery of everybody. I'm just coming home. And, you know, we live kind of out in the sticks. And so it was just, loved it. So, but every day we were always planning the meals, right? I mean, okay, we all know we're coming home. Whereas before it's like people are scattered and just take care of yourself. We're all going to be home. Let's figure it out. And a lot of what I was doing is on the weekend prepping a lot of meals. I tend to be the cook. You know, I'll go shopping. I'll do the cooking. I enjoy doing it. Plus, I get to eat what I want. I don't, you know, my
There
wife's,
you go.
yeah, love my
There's
wife.
the inside.
Yeah.
Secret.
Well, that's okay. You know, you know, if you don't like what's
Hey.
for dinner, make it, you know?
Yeah,
So,
right. You can come to my kitchen anytime and
Yeah.
I'll eat what you fix.
yeah. But I would, if I was to cook on a Saturday or a Sunday, I would go big, right? I mean, why? You heat up the oven, just cook a lot. So I'd cook a lot, and there'd be leftovers, and I'd freeze it. Well, that's kind of carried forward. You know, my daughter's moved to Louisville. My son's, you know, back in Miami. But with my daughter, when she's home, I will, you know, I still cook a lot. I'll just put stuff in the freezer. So when she comes home, I'll fill up a cooler for her so she can just bring it back. And so she can have the magic of our meal, even though she's eating separately. So the kids refer to it as Frank food. What are you having for dinner? Well, I'm having Frank food. So very cute.
Yes, and I guess you have Frankfurts often.
No. I do make, I will make hot dogs, but that's kind of more of afterthought than anything.
Sure, that's if there's nothing else to make.
Yeah.
But yes, so what have you experienced? Because you just said when your kids come home, you're all at the table. And how does that make you feel? Do you experience that magic of being together?
Yeah, I mean, you know, obviously when you're together, there's always moments. Well, I think you had a daughter overseas, right? You explained to me.
I have, well, my children have lived on 6 continents, so somebody's usually out of the country. My son and his bride are going to Europe for a year, so they're leaving in August. And yeah, I think the last time we talked, one of my daughters was in Turkey.
Okay, and she was coming home. But the point I was trying to make with that is that moment when she comes home, like, and your kids are all back, you know, it's just that connection. And that doesn't last forever, right? So what I'm saying is when the kids are home, you know, the welcome is wore out at some point, even if just temporarily. So we have those moments, right? We have those moments, but we are really tuned into one another's humor, you know, movies that we like. Hey, Dad, I saw this funny clip on YouTube. You want to share it? He'll share it with me. So, and those are things that, you know, when they're in high school, it's, you know, when kids are in high school, they tend to, I don't want to say hate their parents, but it's like they need their distance, right? So I don't know if part of it's just because they're kind of growing up, but part of it's just we're around and we've had to spend time together.
Right. Well, it is statistically proven, they've done all these surveys, that teenagers, and that is the most valuable time to have family meals. Put the cell phones away, unless you're showing a clip, a fun clip or something. But teenagers that have family meals have a lower rate of drug use, anorexia, pregnancies, unwanted pregnancies, all of the challenges that people freak out about. Oh no, I have a teenager in the house. If you have already established, but at least had during their teenage years an opportunity to be together, and listen, just listen to what their day is like, listen to what's going on with them, and then just have shared jokes. But actual sharing of food, it's been proven, there was a research done at the University of Chicago that had these test groups to have people work together to make a decision, and some people had food and some people didn't. And the ones that shared food had developed trust quicker and could come to a decision quicker because they were sharing food. There's something about sharing food that builds trust and connects people.
Yeah, you know what? That was one of the studies that you shared with me, and I did talk about it on this podcast. I got the study and read the study. I tend to do those sorts of things. It was very interesting because what they found, it wasn't just necessarily eating together. What really made it impactful was eating the same things. And I think the title of the podcast episode was something like, you want a better relationship, share a pizza, right? Because, and there's something to that. There's something, there's something in our history sitting around, and we weren't eating pizza, but we were, eating a bison or, sharing a soup or something. We're all eating the same thing. We're in this together.
Right.
But it was fascinating. And they were using things like jelly beans and stuff like that. But you're right. I mean, it was significantly significant that people just came together.
Well, why do you think they have bagels in the boardroom?
Yeah.
I mean, sharing the same food. If you're going to eat the food that I'm eating, there must be some trust,
Yeah.
So that's the magic. And when you, all the happy chemicals are released in your brain when you enjoy something. And if you're enjoying the food, then you're going to be in a better mood, and then you're going to like the person that's sharing the food with you. There's magic there. So we just need to do the magic.
Yeah. And certainly with family, but even in business, I remember, being in when I was a consultant working for a large company, days were stressful. You're trying to bill your clients and find work, and it's like you in real estate, right? You're always looking for something, right? It's stressful. Business is not easy, and if it's easy, it won't last. But at any rate, I remember, pretty much every day, just kind of the rite of passage was, okay, where are we going to lunch? Let's figure out where we're going to lunch. And all that stress would kind of just fade away. We'd sit and we'd laugh and we'd talk about things and what people are working on. And you might be at odds with somebody and it would just kind of fade away. So there's something to that sharing a meal that just helps us connect on a different level.
Totally. Well, and you may remember in the TEDx talk, I talked about the Compromise of 1790, the dinner that Thomas Jefferson had with 30 courses. Of course, you don't have to have 30 courses, but he had Hamilton and Madison that were totally at odds. That, Hamilton wanted the government to pay for the Revolutionary War, and Madison didn't. And Madison wanted the capital in a certain place, and Hamilton didn't. But they sat and had a conversation over this meal, and maybe they just got tired of eating all 30 courses and decided to give up by the end of it. I don't know, but they were able to come to a compromise.
Yeah.
Over this meal.
Yeah. Well, I think certainly the meal helps, sitting down and having a conversation. In fact, Simon Sinek's book, Leaders Eat Last, he talks about part of the problem we're having with divisiveness in the U.S. Congress and the Senate is that many of these people don't spend time in Washington anymore. They're going back to their districts. And so when they're not in Washington, they're not together. And it used to be that they would all be in Washington together. And you know what? I need you on my bowling team, or hey, we're having a cookout, or we need someone for the baseball team. and we don't care if you're, a Democrat or a Republican. We just need a good pitcher, right? So they were sharing more time and more meals together. And when that stuff goes away, it's easy to lose connections. It's easy not to have that conversation about whatever, and there's a lot going on in the country right now, obviously, with Roe v. Wade and guns and just lots of things.
We need a 30 course Jeffersonian meal again. Let's do it.
Yeah. So I guess tell me a little bit about your holiday dinners.
Okay. Well, my children were born over 3 decades. So they got married, had their own families and whatever. And I got to a point where I realized, especially after the first one was married, that I can't, and that they lived all over the world, that I couldn't say everybody has to be home for Christmas and Thanksgiving and 4th of July and my birthday. And, so I said, okay, here's the deal. We are going to have Irby Thanksgiving and in-law Christmas this year. Next year, in-law Thanksgiving and Irby Christmas. So we attempt to gather. Now, we have some, and I actually included them in my cookbook I published, some family dishes. One of our traditions, which we had this past Christmas, we had 29 gathered for 4 hours, and one family of 6 didn't get to come because they had to work the day after Christmas in Indiana, and they couldn't come to Atlanta. But we had one of our family favorite meals called Trainwreck. And it works great if you're going to have more than 10 people over for a meal. You make a big pot of chili. It's like a taco salad, and you put out all the ingredients, and then the vegetarian can have a nice salad without the chili. Or if somebody doesn't like the peppers, or they want peppers, or they want the avocado, or they want the ranch, or they want the onions, you have all the parts all lined out, sour cream, shredded cheese, nachos, chips, Doritos. And then each person, shredded lettuce, goes through the line and they pile up there, and it's like spaghetti. It grows, you think, oh, I'm just gonna have a little bit. You put the chips down, then you put and then it's this huge plate. But everybody, that's kind of one of our ways to have a family meal when you're serving so many people.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's my wife's family. We do Thanksgiving every year. That's kind of the standing tradition. So in your terms, it's always Irby Thanksgiving.
Okay.
And which is fine. It doesn't always work for everybody. And there are some of the kids who have grown and gotten married, and they're, they have, like you guys, where it's alternating. So they miss every other year. It's just, you're going to have that. But same sort of thing. You have people with differing tastes. You have the gluten intolerance. You have the quasi vegetarians. You have the total vegans, and it's a strain to try and keep everybody.
Right. Well, now in my TEDx talk, I mentioned that we have this dish called corn casserole, and it's delicious. It's really, really simple to make. You just throw the ingredients in a pan and bake it. But one of the ingredients is Jiffy cornbread mix. So you have to make sure you get the gluten kind of Jiffy cornbread mix.
Yeah.
And then there's but anyway, and I put a stick of butter in it. So, and all these, well, I'm, low fat and so, look, okay.
It's the holidays.
It's the holidays.
Yeah, go for a walk.
Yeah, right. We're going to do aerobics, family aerobics after we're done with our meal. But yeah, I would make a big turkey, and the clincher of every Thanksgiving meal to know if it was a good one is my husband's dad was a cook in the Navy. and he had a recipe for stuffing. It's not stuffing, dressing, because stuffing goes in the bird. It's made outside of the bird with this. And I wait for him to my husband take a bite of the dressing. And if he goes, then I know that the meal's going to be good because it came out well. So we have your traditional, but you have to make a lot of it.
Yeah.
For the large crowd. This is Irby Thanksgiving, and we are going to see how many people can gather at one of my son's homes the only one that lives in North Carolina. So we're going to see if we can gather there. It's easier in Atlanta because 5 of them live in Atlanta. So, but yeah, we rented a retreat center to have a family dinner. It's fun. It's fun.
Well, I appreciate you coming on here and talking about the magic of the meal, and I hope Irby Thanksgiving is a hit, a 5-star hit.
Right. Well, and here's the thing. It doesn't have to be the Jeffersonian 30 courses. It can just be a bagel.
Yeah.
But find someone to share a meal with and eat the same things and see where the magic takes you.
Yeah, that's simple, great advice. We all have to stop and eat, right?
Hopefully.
Yeah, well, you should stop and eat and just take the time to do it with somebody. And it's such a simple lesson, but it's an important one.
Absolutely.
I guess before we close up, what's going on in your world? How can people help you, people listening?
I would love for people to go watch my TEDx talk. I finally reached over 1,000 views, so I feel woohoo. The other, I am on a project to write. I'm writing a book and looking for subscribers. I'm on Substack. Have you heard that platform?
I have.
Irby.substack.com, and you'll find the Claim Belonging newsletter. Each post is a potential part of the book that I'm writing, and I want feedback, especially if you don't agree with me. I want to hear it, and we'll go out and have a donut together.
There you go. All right. Well, I'm going to put the link to the podcast, the TED Talk, in the show notes. And
awesome.
So hopefully get some views.
Thanks.
Well, you have a great day.
And you have a good dinner.
Thanks for joining us on the Networking RX podcast. Please put what you've learned into action today and let us know if you have questions, comments, or ideas for future topics. You can email them to us at podcast@amspirit.com. That's AMSPIRIT.com. Finally, so you never miss an episode, be sure to subscribe to the Networking RX podcast through iTunes, Overcast, or however you receive your podcasts. Now get out and network with someone.
The Networking RX podcast is the copyright production of AmSpirit Business Connection. All rights reserved.